The U.S. Coast Guard will return Station Pascagoula to full response operations in 2026. Tyler Bell joins us now in studio with more on what this will mean for the coast.
Well, Station Pascagoula is located on Singing River Island, directly south of Ingalls Shipyard. It had its capabilities reduced back in 2023 due to workforce shortages. The station conducts missions that deter illegal migration and illicit trafficking while also protecting vital infrastructure at the port. Congressman Mike Ezell is the chairman of the Coast Guard and Maritime Transportation Subcommittee, and he says that the station's restored operations is, quote, outstanding news for South Mississippi.
Well, I'll tell you what, when I took over as subcommittee chair of the Coast Guard, I immediately started talking with the leadership, the importance of Coast Guard Pascagoula and what it means to the citizens here in my district, and we're going to continue to do those kinds of things. And,
Congressman Ezell also touts the return of Station Pascagoula's full capabilities as a large economic success, complementing the ongoing work of Ingalls and Bollinger shipyards. The Coast Guard has not released details on exactly what new assets or personnel will be added in Pascagoula, but Congressman Ezell says to expect to see additional ships in the area.